Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Everyman Podcast. Tonight we don't have a special guest; we have ourselves. And firstly, I'm going to apologise for the croaky voice. I have had flu for a few weeks and woke up. I think it was yesterday with this type of voice, which, well, if people are into with husky voices, um, other than that, it doesn't sound or feel great. Um, Boys, how are you tonight?
Sound me, doing well. A bit hungover after yesterday. I was just saying there, Lou, just you sounds a little bit off.
My
Um,
sound's
it's,
off.
yeah, but it's like cutting in and out. I don't know if it was just for me or if it was for you as well.
I heard it was bad as well.
Is it sounding any better now?
It's
Yeah,
better now.
Okay, it's better now. Okay. So tonight's episode, we are going to talk about me, which is fun, I suppose. And we're going to talk about sort of my journey, my mental health. And a lot of that will probably make sense as to why we do the podcast and where we're at. But before we get into it, boys, it's been a few weeks. How are you both doing?
Go on, James.
yeah, not bad at all. Just cracking on with the house, doing little bits and bobs here and there. Um, but work just takes out of us, to be honest. You know, drive 500 miles a week just to get to and
Do you?
from work. Yeah, it's 50 miles there, 50 miles back, Monday to Friday. But I've had I was off on Friday. I was off today. I'm at a course from home tomorrow and Wednesday. And I'm off Thursday, Friday as well, so don't need to worry about the drive for next coming week, which is decent.
Yeah,
Um, Other than that,
that's
yeah,
good.
feeling good. But getting back into rugby just as the season's ending, but feeling good for that. Been doing the park runs as well. Last few weeks with Logan and my mate Alex.
Yeah.
That's been good. Got my PB as well for a 5k, which is even better.
What'd you get?
Feeling
What was
good.
it?
Uh, Probably no good for you. It was like 24,
It's still alright.
'It's not
40,
It's a
bad, is it?
25.
I think.
It's a better than average, isn't it? I think 30 minutes like the average park run. So
Is it?
you're
Yeah.
above average, mate. Aren't
Oh,
you?
yeah, well, that's good
Yeah.
then. Yeah, Dean, how are you?
I sound. Since the last time on, I don't know if it was confirmed, but I was getting me voluntary paid leave from work, so voluntary redundancy from the end of next month. So that's looking forward to that. Having a bit of time off over summer. Hopefully the weather picks up. So at the minute I've just because I know I'm leaving, I've just got some time off because I'm struggling to work, knowing that you're leaving soon, struggling to motivate yourself to, like push on every day. So I got a bit of time off, so I'm not working another Monday, which means me and Lou's going on Sunday sessions every week.
Well, definitely not. I think that's part of the thing I'm going to be talking about tonight, actually. Um, yeah, so let's get into it because I've never. So, firstly, I'm a little bit nervous. Not many people know this at all. So who have I spoken to? Like my parents, my ex obviously knows about it. Um, you guys know about it from a message in the chat. Um, that's probably it. There's not many people know, but I've struggled in the past massively with gambling addiction, and obviously you guys are aware of that. And it's something where the stage I'm at now, I don't struggle with it at all today. Like I don't think about it. It's not an important part of my life at all. Um, but at some points in my life, it made me not want to be here anymore, um, like at all. And the stage that I'm at in sort of, it's probably weird calling it recovery, but like it within a recovery is I feel like it's time to probably just own it. Um, it feels like the next step of me being the person that I actually want to be, and it's really hard to do that when um, you're you're still keeping such a big part of your last few years or your last 10 years, whatever, of life hidden away, especially when I'm trying to do so much good with this podcast and what we do, I think it's probably a good thing to talk about. So yeah, that's kind of it in an intro. Thanks everyone for listening. Catch you all later. But no, I think we can delve into the story a bit. I suppose where I'm at today, right, is generally in life. I have loads going on, and not all great things going on, as in like personal things, like seeing my son, for example, or like getting my own place again, or like work has also had a lot of changes, which is been a bit hard as well. And like my boss, who I was really close to, she's just left, and that's another thing where I feel really sad about that, because she was like such a big support network. So it just feels like there's a lot of things happening in my life all at once, and I am struggling with lots of things, if I'm honest. Luckily, gambling's not one of them, but it's one of those where I'm hoping by talking about this and sharing my story, I can take away some of the anxiety and weight I have in my head to allow me to get past the other things that I'm struggling with. That's kind of a big reason of why I want to talk about this as well. And obviously, it's a really important topic, addiction and gambling. And any questions to begin with? This is where they say, "No, Lewis, just talk with your sexy husky voice."
Yeah, I think most of us just want to really hear your story, to be honest. And I just want to say, like, well done for actually speaking about it in front of everyone. It's a massive thing that you've been scared of doing for a long time. But as you say, hopefully speaking about it and letting people know, not only could you be helping someone else, you first and foremost helping yourself, and hopefully you feel better for it.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. Probably where it's probably best. So at any point, interrupt, ask questions, but I'm just going to talk, right? I'm going to try and set the scene and sort of help people understand how I got into how my addiction happened for me, and how I didn't think it was a thing until it was a thing, and then it was out of control and I couldn't do anything about it. So firstly, I started this podcast just after probably the hardest period of my life, and that period of time was, I would say, I wasn't gambling at all. There was a few months past it, but I was really struggling, and I'd actually moved to my mum's when me and my ex like broke up, and you guys, before we really get into the story, you guys have been such a big help, irrespective of us not really talking about it, but just by making sure that I'm okay, and us having this weekly check-in, honestly, is, I swear to God, it has saved my life. And I don't say that lightly at all. Like, I 100% would not have been here without us doing this podcast, which is hard to say, because even thinking about how I was feeling, and I've wrote loads of notes ahead of tonight, and almost bringing back some of those raw emotions as I was writing them was a really hard thing to do. Like I didn't, I kind of forgot that I felt how I did until I've almost wrote the whole out again. And it's probably healthy to go back to that point and understand it and look at it with the eyes of how I feel today, of actually I'm healthy, I'm not ill anymore. It's not something that's not all consuming for me anymore at all. So gambling for me and how it originally started, I, like most people, most young men, I started gambling, 18, 19. You're going out with your friends, you go to a local bookies, and you're having a few pints watching the football, and you might all put an accumulator on. Basically a long list of bet, all pick a match or whatever and a result, and you might win. most times you don't win because there's 10 of yous out, and you're doing a 10-team accumulator, and you all put a fiver in, and if you win, you're all sailing off into the sunset. So at the beginning, it was like gambling for me was just like a social thing around seeing my friends. It wasn't something I ever really thought about. I definitely didn't overthink it. I could take it or leave it. Yeah, it just wasn't important at all in my life. And that was football betting mainly. That was just betting on Newcastle to win or Man United to win or whatever. So I felt like I had an element of control because I would only bet on things that I would have a more likelihood of winning, for example. And for years I did that. I would say 18, 19 to 25. That was how I gambled. I felt in control. I didn't feel like it was ever an issue. I only bet what I could afford. Um, and I could afford to lose. And yeah, it just wasn't really an issue for me at all. Um, but coinciding with this, and a lot of the work that I did with sort of my therapist and my counsellors were around sort of your childhood, your relationships with people, your mindset, your understanding of things, your opinion on things, and my first few things into the working world. Firstly, I wanted to be a footballer, and I failed. But there was lots of, like, for example, when Sunderland flew me up from Cornwall up here, I'm getting on a plane at 16 years old, and it's not a private plane, by the way, before anyone gets excited. But I'm getting on an EasyJet plane, um, flown up to to Sunderland from Cornwall, and you're around people who are multi-millionaires at 16 years old, and you think, wow, this is what my life's going to be. Um, and then, so that was the first part. And then my first real, um, my first real like proper job was living up here. I moved to Newcastle, and I was involved in a family business, and I can't imagine many sort of 19-year-olds first job. Your bank account sees hundreds of thousands of pounds, and your business is turning over close to what, a few million or whatever, and you have cash so available all of the time to do things, and you have um, you have staff, and like money just wasn't really, at times money wasn't really like that much of an issue. And what it gave me was a false perception of the value of money. I didn't learn the basic principles early enough as a young person of the value of what you earn, and what it's worth. Um, and that's why, when again through the therapy and the counselling that I had, it was very clear that gambling was probably going to happen in my life. So for the conversations that we had, I didn't value the money that I was putting on, and I didn't value the winnings by the end, which is really interesting. So ultimately, obviously, I was involved in the business. That business then failed, and I was ultimately left with, like, I don't know, there was like 100 grand against my name, because it was the business all got put in my name. I'm not going to talk about that story, and the creditors and stuff. And we ended up having to go to like court, and I had to fight against that, like, legally, and say like XYZ, and get out of that situation because it was a limited company. And that's probably when I first started to develop anxiety, and I've never really spoke about me having anxiety, and not many people, well, barely anyone knows that I have anxiety, because anyone who knows me thinks I'm the most confident, like, talk to anyone, never nervous, like a bit of a gobshite, to be honest. Which I have that ability to be that person, but a lot of the time it's a front. And when I was writing my notes for this episode, I, I delved into why that is and how that is, because again, I did a lot of work on it with my therapist around how my personality is, and people are more likely to become an addict if they're more extrovert, for example. It's just one of those things. You're more flash, you're more out there, you're more likely to take risks. And this was one of those where growing up, I went to a lot of schools. My dad's in the forces. I moved around a lot. And I think I've spoke about this before on the podcast, where I had to develop a personality where I couldn't be the nervous, scared, shy person at school on the first day of school. Um, I had to try and be confident and come across funny and all those sorts of things, because that's how I learned to cope for people to like me on that day one. Um, so I was able to build a front of who I am as a person, of this really confident, outgoing person who can, I don't know, never seems like he's down, never seems like anything's going on, even though as a 10-year-old boy you sat there nervous at the front of the class because you're meeting 30 new people again that year, and you've had to do it a year before, a couple of years before, but you're really nervous, but you can't talk about it because actually if you do you might get bullied, and you don't want to get bullied at your new school. And so I was really conscious that my personality was able to hide my addiction, to be honest. Like nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, knew I had a gambling addiction at all, because I was able to switch. I'm okay. I'm fine. Like I walk around like nothing's wrong at all. And I think that's also really dangerous. Where like, I started off the podcast by saying I didn't know I was an addict until it got too bad, and it got out of control, and that's something that I've had to learn to try and speak up, learn to try and talk, because it just doesn't come naturally to me at all. One, being a man, we naturally don't share our feelings and thoughts, and especially if we feel low. But secondly, I was so ashamed to say, because I've always been that guy of I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm cool, I'm funny, or whatever. Like I'm not cool or funny, by the way, but like I tried to put that perception on so people like me. And then opening up a vulnerability of, oh my God, every single day for the past 60, 70, 80 days, all I've thought about is killing myself. And that was a genuine thought in my head all day. It's a really, I'm trying not to get upset, but it's a really it's a really hard thing to be able to overcome, to be honest. And I did massively struggle with that process. Any first questions before we go to sort of
I
the
was just thinking,
next
like,
bit?
where you at now, though? Like, mentally, emotionally, and all that. How are you feeling these days?
With the gambling, I don't think about it, which is great. Like, and I think like, you know me probably as well as anyone. If I don't want to do something, I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm super stubborn. So I've told myself, and I've educated myself, and I've learned, and I understand. I recognize the patterns in my brain of, if I get an urge, what I need to do. So, for example, we're in the football chat, right?
Yeah,
And in our football chat, I bet's talked about every single day,
pretty much. Yeah.
probably. If not every day, every
Well,
other day.
we've got that. Yeah.
Yeah, like all the time, right? It's spoken about. I see those messages and I don't even read them. Like my brain, like there's adverts on the telly. I watch the football every single week, right? All it is on the adverts is Bet365, Sky Bet, Paddy Power, all of that. Like it's rammed down your throat constantly of gamble, 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 gamble.
Yeah.
But being honest, I've got to a point. So the first exercise that I did actually was recognizing what they were. So a huge part, like one of the biggest parts of my recovery, genuinely, was when I seen a gambling advert, I would say that I would verbalize it properly. That is a gambling advert. Like even just recognizing that. So subconsciously, it wasn't triggering any thoughts because I'd consciously thought about it. But I've now got to a point where I can just, I have like an automatic filter in my brain now, or my eyes. I see it, but I just don't compute it. I've just trained myself to, I've trained myself just to block it out. But in my overall mental health, this is why we're having the chat, though, mate. Like I said at the start, I've got so much other shit going on in my life that I feel like I need to lighten the load off my shoulders a little bit by talking about this. As in, it's really hard keeping something in, even though no one needs to know it. I know, and although I don't owe anyone this story, and there'll probably be lots of people slating me or whatever for it, like, because you get that as much as anything. But I need to for myself. When I think of the stage that I'm at in my, and again, I use the word recovery, and I think I'll always be in a form of recovery, because I think once you're an addict, it's very easy to be to fall back into the thing you were addicted to. The next stage of me getting and being the person I want to be is to not be ashamed every day of having an addiction. And I have been, and it weighs in my head, even though I don't think about it. There's something there, and like I say, I've got that much going on. That's already, my life's already hard, where I don't want to carry extra weight that I don't need to carry, basically.
Yeah, I feel like the way to look at it, like with you having that shame, and there is like shame about it that addicts tend to feel, but you're on the other side of it now. You know what I mean?
Mm.
You
Mhm.
shouldn't feel shame now. Like, you went through that horrible time, but now you're out the other side, and I think you should be
Mhm.
proud rather than feel shame. And
Yeah.
hopefully that everyone else is going to echo that as well. And you always see that there's already a few comments popping up, giving you some support as well.
Yeah.
I think you should be past the shame side of it now, and more feel
Yeah. No,
pride at
yeah.
the fact that you managed to get through.
I think I'm. I don't feel ashamed, and the post I put on about us before coming on is I probably did feel shame for a long period of time, and felt embarrassed, and felt like I'd let people down, and ultimately I'd let myself down, because I pride myself on being a good person. And what people like, when you have an addiction, you lie. Like, that's the thing. You lie every day. You're lying to people all of the time. But even by saying I'm okay, what I'm doing, I'm sneaking off to go and gamble, like all those sorts of things. Like, I damaged relationships with people that I really cared about and care about, um, by lying to hide what I was doing. Um, and I just wish, like, genuinely, that I don't have regrets in life. Like, I generally don't live my life by regrets. Um, there's a few that I have, and it's one of them. And the biggest one um, isn't actually the fact that I gambled, because I'm really grateful for this lesson. Like, I have matured and grown up so much as a person, and I understand what I want out of life a lot more than I did. Um, but I regret that I didn't talk up earlier, because I think the damage that it did, not just to my relationships with people, but um, my own health. I really don't think it's a good thing to be thinking of committing suicide every day for months. Like, that you pay a toll for that in other ways, and yeah, it's that's the regret, because I also feel like once you have suicidal thoughts, it's they're always there. And it's not that I think about committing suicide. It's I don't, but it's the fact that my once I feel like it, and someone will tell me that I'm wrong, but I feel like once that path to that message is there in your brain, it's so easy when you have negative thoughts for your brain to follow that path again and go, oh, it would just be easier if you weren't here, or just be so much easier if like you ended it or whatever. And um, as I say, having those thoughts for a long period of time meant that that path was probably that road is more open than it would be if I didn't have it for that long, I think. So yeah, that's where the regret is. Yeah, so there's lots of people in the chat actually. I want to shout out some people because there's lots of people who've helped me in this chat in the past. So Reese, thanks mate, really appreciate it. Dean's mum, like my second mum now. Thanks Jane, Robbie as well. Thanks mate, honestly I really appreciate it.
I think
Christian and stuff as well. Thanks mate.
Obviously, just another good way of looking at it is that you've stopped gambling now at the age of 30. You know, no matter how much
31.
money you lost.
Yeah, I was 30. Yeah.
No matter how much money you lost, you probably would have lost more by continuing to gamble for the rest of your life, anyways. So by
That's true.
having,
I paid the debt early.
Oh yeah, you're net positive now, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I don't know what you do you want to go into the actual story of it, of like, because we've started about where I'm at. Do we want to actually talk about what my addiction was and how it happened? And okay, so firstly, before we get into it, I want to say that addiction is defined as a chronic medical disease involving complex interactions among brain circuits, genetics, the environment, and people's life experiences. When I read that today, we are all so susceptible, irrespective of our own thoughts, beliefs, standards, to being addicted. And it doesn't have to be gambling. It can be drugs, and be alcohol. So my message before we get into my story is, if you're feeling like you're becoming obsessive, or your behavior towards a substance or certain actions are becoming concerning, my first, honestly, is just speak to someone about it. Like, bounce your thoughts and ideas off with someone, because I wish I'd done that sooner and I just didn't do it. So yeah, that would be my biggest thing. So ultimately, so we've got to the age on my gambling story of me being 25, where I said I was. So Christian's just said, I'd love to hear when you first realised you had a problem and how that made you feel upon realising you had a problem with addiction. So Christian, I will get there, mate. I will get there. So up to 25, football bets, accumulators, I felt like I was, like I say, absolutely in control. Never. There might have been the odd time you spend a little bit more than you would like to spend, but it was never something that was life impacting at all. I then got a new job, and within that job, I met someone who told me I think it's the martingale theory. So essentially, my addiction and my problem with gambling wasn't football bets. I'm never going to gamble again. I will never put myself in that situation. But I actually think I could do football bets, and it would, because it never triggered anything for me. Again, just to clarify for anyone who's listening, I'm not going to. My real challenge came around once I started doing online casino, and it was roulette for me. And I got told about a martingale theory, where essentially what you do is you bet an amount, so £5 on either red, black, 1 to 18, 19 to 36,
Any
or odd even.
evens, any
Evens.
any even money bet, yeah.
It's basically whatever you bet, you win that, you double it. And the system works. So if you put £5 on and you get it right, you get £10 back, £5 profit. If you put £5 on and you get it wrong, you'd next put £10 on. So then you'll win £20 and you've only put £15 and you've got a 5 and a 10. So you're £5 up. And if you get that wrong, you put £20. So you just keep doubling your wager until you get it right. And ultimately, over time, you can make a fair amount of money without it's fairly low risk in the scheme of roulette. The odds are more in your favor than just guessing a number or whatever. And the worst thing that ever happened to me, and everything I've read, and this last few years or whatever, like I've read couple of years, I've read so much on addiction, gambling, and how people become really addicted. And the worst thing that happened is I won. The first time I did it, I think I won a couple £100, and I was like, wow, that was so easy. Like, I won it in 10 minutes, £200, and I was like, this is good. Now, my partner at the time, say that was the Wednesday or Thursday, she was going away with her friends on the weekend. And so I wasn't 25 at this point, by the way. I was probably, so I probably jumped a little bit. So I met that person at 25, and I ended up probably 28, I think. I started the martingale theory, if I had to guess, 28. And anyway, ex-partner was going away, and it was the Wednesday, Thursday, and I just won that £200. And I can honestly say I've never been so excited, because the way my brain works is like, I can make money, I can make money, I can make money, I can do things. Like, me and Dean talk about this all the time. Once our brain gets into something, it's just constant thought. But that's also why I was so susceptible to being addicted. And I was so excited for her to go away, so I could, because I knew it was wrong, but I knew I could then just gamble, sit on my phone, and get away with it. Now, again, the worst part of this whole story, or that this whole thing, is that I won that weekend. I won £5,000 in that weekend, and all gamblers and all addicts will tell you, gambling addicts will say that that's usually where that story ends, right? They go, "Yeah, I was up £5,000. It was class." But what they don't tell you is I sat in a bathtub for 6 hours on the Saturday, just playing, or gambling. And then on the Sunday, I spent like 8 hours sat on the sofa. So I literally did not leave the house whatsoever. I sat there staring at a screen, just going cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. That's all I was doing for pretty much the best part of 2 days. And I've mentioned that I have anxiety, and my anxiety was through the roof. Like, you absolutely wouldn't believe. I was dripping with sweat. My heart was like pounding through my chest. Now, in some ways, that sounds really horrible, but um, in other ways, you're also getting adrenaline from that, and it also feels pretty good when you then win. At that stage, I have to be honest, it was all about the winning. So later on in my story, it doesn't become about winning anymore. But at that point, it was about winning. And I genuinely thought, I have cracked life. 2 days, £5,000. I am laughing all the way to the bank here. I obviously lost that money within a few months. That was gone. And then I didn't gamble for like a year. So I lost money. I lost the £5,000. But I'd spent some of it, so I actually lost. Ultimately, I lost, because then it starts costing you a little bit. I was probably down, I don't know, £1,000, £500, something like that. And I, like I said, continued doing that for a few months, and then I didn't gamble for a year. I completely told myself, that's it, I'm done. I deleted the apps, but I didn't talk to anyone about it. So next thing that happens, a few years later, we've bought a house, we've got a son. Life pressures, the struggles of life, and not being able to cope with my situation, because remember, I'm always okay, I'm always fine. Like, nothing's a problem. So me struggling with being a new dad, or me struggling us having a home that we're renovating, I don't talk about any of that. I just need some form of escape, and where better, and some extra money, because you're doing up a house and you got a baby, and it's like, oh my god, the challenges of that. And I'm trying not to glamorize it in any way, by the way. Like, I'm just trying to be as upfront and honest as I can about this story. I started sleeping in the spare room because my son was breastfed and was up through the night. And the worst thing I did was download an app. And I downloaded an app, and I would say within a week I was up 30 grand. And again, that I'm perfect, I'm great, I'm cool, I'm funny, I'm so smart, complex that I have of that front, that part of my personality made me think that's it. Like I've made it a life. And first win was probably 3 grand. I think the biggest one I won on a spin was something like 26 grand. So anyone who works out the odds, I'm putting what 700, 800 pound on one number on one spin.
At this point, is it different to the not doing the martingale system anymore? Is this a different?
So again, that's a really good question. Actually, really good question. It started off doing the martingale, but then again, the way my brain works, I'm fairly analytical. I'm not a genius, but like I recognize patterns quite well, and I thought I did. Let me clarify, I don't. Like I'm sat here because I absolutely don't. But I thought I did, and that part of my brain was like, you figured this out. You are smarter than these people and this program because it's a machine that does a number on a roulette wheel. But I convinced myself I was smarter because I was winning, and that is the worst thing that ever happened was I won because then that's when you feel like you've completed it. So I was doing the martingale theory, but then on on a roulette wheel generally. So I'll tell you why I thought I'd done it. If the ball lands in one area, it's either going to land in that area or the opposite side of the board area. That
Yeah, that's
happens.
okay, mate.
That happens probably 6 times out of 10. That it's either there or there, and the odd time it'll land somewhere else, right? Or that's what I thought. Or
Yeah.
that's what my brain thought. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying that's where my brain went to. So it went from going, I can double my money to I can times 36 my money.
Mm.
So £10 would get me £360 on a number, because the numbers are 1 to 36 on a roulette wheel. So once you start winning a few of them, and that theory in your head of it goes opposite, and remember, I'm doing this on a night time for 6 hours a night. I'm going to bed and staying up till 2, 3 in the morning. I'm waking up early to do it. I'm not sleeping. I'm not eating. I feel sick. And that was even on the winning part. Like my brain every single day was just thinking, gamble, 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 gamble. That's all it was thinking. It was thinking about the patterns. It was thinking about how can I continue to figure this out. And ultimately, so my addiction at the height of the addiction. We'll talk about how long I think I was addicted before, but the height of the addiction was 3 months. And in 3 months, I wagered nearly £500,000. I didn't lose £500,000 for context. I didn't have £500,000 to lose, but I wagered. So that's money spent winning and losing, winning and losing, winning and losing. And ultimately lost just under 20k. I think it was about 18k of my own money, which I'm also going to say I'm also very lucky. Like I'm so lucky that it was only that amount, because lots of people lose a hell of a lot more, and I'm not downplaying the figure at all. Like it makes me feel sick thinking about it, but that to tell you that I did £500,000 in 3 months, like that is just an insane amount of money. And that just shows that I just, at the time, did not value a penny. Like there was days I'd lose 6 grand in a day, but then I'd win 10 the next, or I'd win 2 the next. And if I only won 2, I'd be like walking around the house, like, but also trying to put a front on that I'm okay. And I wouldn't have been a nice person to be around at that point. But like I say, I was pretty good at pretending I was all right when really I wasn't. And I think a lot of it came down to the fact, for me, one, I was addicted to gambling, but I also didn't recognize my own mental health, that I was struggling at the time, and gambling was an escapism. Hang on, just Christian. It's crazy telling the story because I would never. I would say we were pretty close during this whole with work and footy, and I can hand on heart say I never knew you were going through this. Sorry, I never knew and asked enough about how you're doing because I totally brought your front, mate. I think that's half of why I'm telling the story. People didn't know because I didn't want them to know. If you asked me at that time, are you okay? I'd say yeah, I'm fine. Are you? Like, and I would say it as simple as that. Yeah, I'm good. Are you all right? Like, straight back onto you, and that's it. Because I got so good at hiding it. Firstly, I knew it was wrong. Because I hid it. I think that's the first thing. I wasn't openly going around telling people. So I knew it was wrong because I hid it.
How did you hide? Because like obviously the days when you had big wins, like not want to tell people. Oh, that'd be buzzing me if I'd won some money.
No, it's a really good point. I think by the time, because I won so much so quick, being really honest, I thought I'd, as I say, completed it. And my aim, so my first aim was to like pay cars off, and then it was actually I could just pay the house off if I keep winning this. Like I can really, if I've done that in a week, what can I do in a month? What can I do in 6 months? Like, so my brain was, if I had told anyone at the time, then I was fearful I would lose the opportunity.
More
This is
people would do.
fucking
Yeah, yeah,
mental.
yeah.
It's not more people would do it, but I would have to give someone else the money. And then I didn't have that pot to just keep building and building and building. Like my brain was like, I actually initially started the whole to get to the 30 grand on £100. I think that the first deposit I think was 100 and it went up to 1,000. And I ended up getting, like I say, to 30 grand. And there was a time I had it in my bank account, the full money, for about an hour. And
What,
then
the
I
30
had to go
grand?
back. Yeah, and I had to go back to gambling.
So you put
So
it,
I
you
thought about it.
put 30 grand
Yeah,
straight back in.
I withdrew it, put it back in,
Did you?
and gambled.
I'm guessing then at no point you really cashed any money to use it for anything of value. Then
Yeah, I
because
did.
you were always,
No, I
or would
did.
you? I'd say maybe you're
I
just
did.
investing it in to winning more.
No, I would say, but I wasn't living a flash lifestyle. I don't particularly live a flash lifestyle. I don't think I ever particularly have. Like, I don't wear like Gucci designer stuff, or I'm not wearing a Rolex. Like, I'm not that guy. But I no, like did nice things. Like went on a little holiday and like just to some like cabin thing and bought some new clothes and probably spent a couple of grand.
Yeah.
Again, I'm saying it like it's nothing. It's £2,000. I spent a lot of money, but I'm in the scheme of what I was doing.
Yeah.
At the time, I was like, I can just afford to spend that. So yeah, it was one of those where it was just such an odd time. But you ask the question, like, why didn't I tell people? But it also didn't become about the money. Like there was multiple times in that 3 months where I could have been break even, fine, or up, fine. I was only down the last 2 weeks, I think. So that shows the spiral out of control. So I'm not saying I was down like I had the full 30 grand. I didn't. That was down at maybe 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 or whatever, depending on if I was how much I gambled that day. And but it was only the last 2 weeks where I lost and then lost and lost and lost. And a big thing that I really struggled with in hindsight when I look back at it is I was with my bank since I was 12, I think. So nearly 20 years. 18 years or something. 17 years, 18 years, whatever it is, right? And not once did they call me. Not once did they say, because I'm not even joking. There was an exercise I did looking through my bank statements, and there was tens of transactions daily, tens, and for your bank never to call you and say, "What the fuck is going on here? Like, are you actually okay?" I think there needs to be a duty of care. I think it's too easy to, like I say, I withdrew £30,000 and I deposited £30,000. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
have to do anything. I just deposited it. Like that. That should not be.
remember that? You remember that COS thing that was going around that everyone was getting into?
Aye, the
Where you basically
stock
press
thing.
them
Aye.
buttons like 4 times a day, right? So we were doing that, like knowing fine well it was a scam. Like we were well aware of it, and we were 100% prepared to lose our money. And I think one time I put like, a couple £100 into it, but like my bank were like, I'm with Lloyd's, and they rang me like every time. It was getting annoying, really, that they kept ringing. Like they're like, "Are you sure like you want to do this? Like no one's promising you." I'm like, nah, it's fine. I want to do it. I want to do it. But that was only with like a couple of £100. I'm really surprised that when you go on with
Right,
30
it's
grand,
absolutely
that'll flag up.
it's absolutely insane, honestly. So not once did they. So, but the thing is, right? I didn't try hard enough. So let me clarify that. But I did try. I promise, so much to not do it. Like I was blocking myself from certain bookies, but then 6 hours later or the next day, I was just opening up new accounts in different sites. Like it all ultimately. So there's that part. So my bank aren't just seeing it go to Sky Bet, for example. They're seeing it go to bloody Azerbaijan online casino. Like it's international, some of these, because I've ran out of UK ones, and I was winning or losing, and then going, right, that's me done. Block it, block it. I'm banned. I can't bet on there anymore. And it got to a point. I think I was on like page 6 of Google, trying to find like another bookie to go with. Like it was absolutely insane. And when I say, and I spoke about it before. Sorry, I'm trying not to get upset. I spoke about it before that like every day I was waking up like chest pains, anxiety, like felt like so ill, genuinely not wanting to be here, as I say, because I knew I couldn't control it. And it was just, there was just a voice in my head every single day saying, gamble, gamble, gamble. It's kind of like if someone was just following you around saying, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. But when it's in your own brain, you can't escape that person. Or I couldn't escape that person at that time. And I was unable to get away from the voice because I didn't talk. And I think that's my message. I think if I'd spoken to someone else, they would have said, stop being a fucking idiot. Sort your life out. Like, go and get help. Do the right thing. Be responsible. It's your life. No one's just going to come around and make you better. Like, you proactively have to do something. And I only am better because I've had to proactively do things. If I didn't speak up, if I didn't speak to my counsellor or my family and things, one, I probably wouldn't be here, being really honest. Or two, if I was still here, I would still be gambling. And that's because I wasn't going to solve it myself. Like, without help, it just wasn't ever going to happen. Because I tried, like I say, I'd blocked myself, but I didn't try that hard. In the scheme of it, I could have done a lot more. Now I'm out of that situation, I could have done a lot more. One of the best things I did super early to help get over the addiction was I used a site called Gamban. So that essentially blocks your identity and you as a person from every gambling site. Again, you might be able to get to some international ones, but I'm not trying to. Um, it just automatically blocks you as a person from all of them. So for my addiction, once I physically couldn't do something, I found instantly the voice stopped. If my brain knows I can't do something, like physically can't, I was really lucky. I probably shouldn't use the word lucky in this topic, but I was really fortunate that that my brain was able to realize I can't do that, so stop wasting energy on it. Um, I, so it ended up all coming to light anyway. As I say, nearly £500,000 wagered, 18k loss. It came because I tried. No, I deposited some money. I think about £1,000. Again, not playing that figure down, but in the scheme of it, it wasn't loads. But I was losing. I was losing and losing, and I deposited it to a foreign casino. And I don't know if many people here listening know much about wagering, but I basically had to gamble that £1,000 something like 100 times to be able to withdraw it. It was a scam site basically. Like it was an absolute scam. And I tried calling them. The number wasn't their number. They were saying they're not the casino, and like it was, and they were from India, and the whole thing just absolutely stunk of a scam. Spoke to my bank, and I was arguing with the casino and my bank, and my ex-partner heard it, and I tried lying, saying, "Oh, someone stole £1,000 out my bank." Da, da, da. I tried lying, and then I just broke down. Like we went for a walk, and we were at the bottom of like the estate of where we lived, and I was in the middle of the road, and I cried, and it wasn't like just a cry; it was like a sobby, snotty, proper like breakdown. Life is, I don't want to be here anymore. Um, it was that full-on conversation, and from there, like I was so lucky. But my mum came through and helped, which was great. And I spoke to a northeast charity who I think it's called NECA, who help people who have addictions, and they help people with all various addictions. And they gave me a counsellor within 24 hours because I went through like a crisis line. Like I'm not joking. That night is the worst night of my life. Like I was actually in pain. My head was like pounding because I'd cried so much. Like I actually had like a full-on breakdown. It, it didn't feel real, and remembering it back, it still almost doesn't feel real. Like I was physically hurting when I was crying. Like it was very odd. And anyway, I ended up getting a counsellor. His name was Paul, and if one person saved my life, it was him. If I could, if it was down to any one thing, it was 100% him who saved my life. We spoke about everything in my life. We spoke about my childhood, my friendships, my mentality, what I want out of life, my ethics, my values. We would talk about everything, and he said we're going to strip you back to basics in terms of how your brain thinks about gambling, how it thinks about money, how it thinks about trust, loyalty, all those sorts of things. Because, like I say, I broke lots of trust in that period of time, and it was super. Like it was just the biggest thing because actually, I didn't gamble because I was addicted to just gambling. I think lots of people get addicted to things, and that's why I gave the definition before. Like your life experiences massively influence if you're going to be addicted to something. So lots of people get addicted to drugs, alcohol, not just gambling. And you'll normally find that people have some form of like childhood trauma, or they have some sort of significant trauma in their life that drives them to addiction. Now, like I didn't have anything sinister. I have to be honest. I was really lucky. Well, not really lucky. I'm lucky as in I'm an addict who didn't have any one of those types of traumas. But we took a big one was moving schools so often. They described that as a trauma. The other one was obviously the business, which I touched upon before, and having anxiety and things, and the fact that I was able to put like a personality front on to pretend to be okay. That was a really big thing. One thing I didn't actually talk about how anxiety happened for me, and we ended up talking about this with my counsellor. So when we lost the business, and one of the creditors actually, so I went to the office to help clear out the office, and I think it was only me in at the time. Again, I'm 20, 21, and a man came up banging on the doors, demanding his money with a hammer, and like threatened to cave my head in, like very aggressively. A much bigger bloke than me. If he didn't get his money, and then that's when I started to get like anxiety and like panic attacks and stuff. At that time, I don't have panic attacks or anything now, but I definitely get moments of anxiety, and things like that meant. And again, I didn't tell. Nobody knows that story other than my counselor. I don't tell people these things because again, I'm okay, I'm fine, like I'm good. And a big part of my recovery was to start to learn to be open and honest with how I feel. And I'm going to be honest, I'm still really shit at it. Like, really, really shit. Like, I am terrible for just saying I'm okay. Like, I'm fine. I'll be all right. Like, I'm so bad for it. But I'm trying to be better. And this podcast gives me something where I'm forced, just like my brain works where I couldn't gamble, so I didn't gamble. My brain works, we have a podcast, I should talk, so I talk. And I know that sounds such a cop out, but it's the way that, like I say, it's helped me so much over this last year to be in a place where I I actually feel okay, like, and I want to be here. If you asked me back then, I don't know, am I still talking? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just my headphones went off. I was in a place, like I say, where I didn't want to be here, and I can honestly say I want to be here, and that makes such a difference in your mentality when you wake up every day and you say, actually, I'm really grateful for the things in my life, or I'm grateful for the people in my life, and I'm grateful that I get to do things that other people maybe don't get to do. And this is the biggest thing. Like I was so nervous, like beyond belief, to be talking about this story today. Like, oh my God, I was writing it out, and I was thinking, this really isn't what I should be doing. But even talking about it now, I feel lighter. I feel like I'm not carrying the weight and the burden and the embarrassment of what happened and what I did. And um, yeah, I just feel in such a different place. And as I said before, I'm talking about this because I have other challenges in my life, and to talk about this just makes the load a little bit lighter. And yeah, that's kind of my story on me being addicted to gambling. I'm happy to answer any questions if people in the chat have a question, or if you guys have a question.
I just think it's amazing that you've came out and said everything, and I feel like even like knowing about it before, or not as much in that depth that you've just explained to everyone there. There's always that like bit of worry about you, and you try and do as much as you can, but you always get that feeling that you're not doing enough and you could do more.
As
But
in
the fact that,
myself.
like, yeah, like me to you, really, like
Mm,
I could be doing more, could be checking up on you more. But the
mm,
fact that you've came out and said that you want to be here, I mean, it's really good to hear. I think
yeah.
like it's a massive improvement from where you were, where you didn't
Yeah.
want to be here. And hopefully like this helps you even more. It kind of boosts you into a better headspace where you can sort of put it to one side and then start focusing on the other things in your life that are not going so well.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, mate, a lot. And that's the thing. So me and Dean talk about this, right? And I'm going to drop him in it a little bit because it's quite an odd thing to say when you run a podcast. But us as blokes, right? We say this to each other, like we don't really want to get into those conversations with people. Like, are you okay? And they say no, and you're like, oh, but we're just going to play football. Like, I can't really have that conversation. Like, blokes naturally are really, really shit at having these conversations. And I'm saying that as someone who is still shit at it, but trying to be better at it. And I hope, if anything, people can listen to this and think, I'm an arsehole, I'm a twat, whatever. Like, that's also fine. But also, like, I'm trying to say this because without me talking openly and honestly to people who needed to know, my life would be very different to what it is today. And the message is absolutely, if you are struggling, you have to speak up, because without it, most things we can't solve by ourselves. We just can't. Especially when there's the shame or embarrassment around how you're feeling. You're never going to open up to someone and submit all of your flaws and weaknesses, because that's how you perceive it as an addict or as someone who's struggling with something, because we all want to come across as strong. So yeah.
No, it was a good story,
Okay.
mate. Obviously, I've heard it a couple of times, so some people maybe think I'm just sitting ignoring you, but nah, we've had quite a few conversations about this. In betting and gambling, it's everywhere. It's in your face, and it's thrown. We've just had Cheltenham. You've got football bets every weekend, especially in like our chats and stuff like that. So, nah, mate, you've come far. You bought some
good.
raffle tickets as well, didn't you?
No, I
This
didn't.
time? Did you not?
No, I gave money, but I didn't get raffle tickets.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, there's even stuff like that. I don't get involved in. If I did get raffle tickets, I don't think I physically got them anyway. But even like the football bets at football, I don't get involved in any of that. Like, I just, like, we have fundraising type stuff where the club makes money. I just avoid it all because it's not healthy. I think if I open that door, I'm not scared, because I think I have the ability to identify and control it now, but it's just not worth it. But yeah, I think so. I don't want to go into where I'm at too much today, because that could be another episode. As I joke about my own fucking how much I'm struggling in life, but oh god, it's it's as much about, as I say, the last, I don't know, few months. Like, I've found life in a different way to when I was addicted. The hardest that I think I've ever felt life. And I'm hopeful that us even getting back to having the podcast on has given me another sense of purpose. Because obviously we had a few weeks off. That probably has massively contributed to me not feeling great either, because I haven't had this chance just to talk and think and whatever. But the next phase of my life, so I'll open up about it a little bit to people. I'm now in a situation where I'm obviously a single dad, and that you have a vision of what your life is going to be by the time you're 30, 31. I'm 31 now, and I'm at the stage now where my life is absolutely not where and what I want it to be, and I kind of just need to get to a positive place. I feel like I've put so much energy into getting over my breakup, into getting over my addiction, to now I'm kind of in a place of like, who is Lewis? Like what do I want to be? What do I want out of life? Like I'm just in a very, very weird headspace at the minute. And again, being really honest, I'm not having suicidal thoughts or anything, but I don't feel positive. Like my mum came through on Monday, and I know she's listening, and like she could tell because we spoke about it as well. And she was like, and she gave me some good advice. But I think what I actually need to do, though, in reality, is just change my behavior. So I'm starting to do the things. Do you know where you get in a bit of a rut and you're staying in the house too long, or I'm staying in bed too long, or I'm not exercising, I'm not eating healthy food, and I'm not reading, I'm not doing the things that make me feel positive. Yet I'm complaining in my own head all of the time that I don't feel positive. So yeah, I probably need to stop the Sunday night drinking with Dean. Probably need to. To be honest, yeah, no, I've made the
I probably
decision.
need to stop as well.
I've made the decision. I'm just not gonna drink. Like unless it's an actual big thing, I'm not gonna drink. It's a depressant. It makes me feel like shit. I make really bad decisions on it, as in like I'll spend more money or I'll go to bed later or whatever. Like you say stupid shit. It's just not a positive in my life. And there's Dan in our football team. Like he talks about it all the time. He feels so much happier that he doesn't really drink now. And there was a period in my recovery where I didn't drink at all. And I know I was getting counselling and therapy and whatever at the time, but not drinking was so positive in my mind. Like I just felt so much better. And that's probably my next challenge of how do I have it's like I'm at a stage now, like I say, I'm 31, where I just want to build a life that I'm happy with and proud of. And at the minute, I'm just going from like week to week, month to month. There's not really much of a direction, and without like purpose and clarity of direction, I don't think you ever feel fulfilled. Um, and I need to get to a point and accept like no one is going to come with a magic wand and just go, that's it, Lewis, your life's now perfect, you're happy again, and like that's not going to happen. Although there's been times the past 3 months I've just expected or waited for that to happen, and daydreamed that this was going to happen, that things are just going to magically be better, and I'm going to wake up one day and I'm going to feel happy, and I'm like, if I'm really honest, I'm just really fucking tired. Like I'm tired of what my life is at the minute, and again, not going to get upset. And yeah, hopefully that this is a weight off my shoulders to give me some momentum to move in the right direction.
It's a process, isn't it? You don't have to have it all figured out now. Like you think when you're growing up, oh yeah, by the time I'm 30, I'll have everything sorted. But it's still a young age. You know, you've still got not even halfway through your life yet. You don't need to have it all figured out yet. You've loads of time.
Yeah.
As much as you'd like to. We all would,
Yeah.
but it
No,
doesn't
I
work
know.
like that,
I
as
know.
you say.
I know. Is there any questions from audience? I don't think there is. There's lots of comments and there's lots of people saying they're proud of me and things. And firstly, thank you for saying you're proud of me for opening up. But if I could encourage anyone who's listening, right, to do one thing, it's just message someone you haven't spoken to in a while. Like, please just send someone a message saying, hello, are you okay? And when they say, yes, I'm fine, please just ask them, are you actually? Like, can we actually have a chat to make sure you're okay? Because people will have tried to do that when I was struggling. And I would have said, yes, I'm fine. But I think if someone had asked me the second follow-up question, I don't know if I would have lied the second time. And I think asking the question in two ways, like most people say, how are you, as like a passing comment. like are you all right? And people just go, yeah, could you like, and then it's what do you want basically. I think making sure someone actually realizes you're actually asking how they are could make a big difference to someone. So if you take anything away from that, please start doing that more, because I think I don't think people realize what that could actually do for someone's life. Okay, I'm conscious that I've spoken pretty much for an hour, and although I'm a gobshite, that was even hard work for me, to be honest. Is there any other thoughts, questions, or are we good to wrap up?
Good, me.
Yeah.
But thanks, just thanks for sharing,
Wrap
mate.
it up. Yeah, well done.
Cool. All right. Well, firstly, thank you so much for everyone who liked, commented, loved it, shared it. As I say, we're just a group of young lads, have our own battles like everyone else, trying to raise the profile of people looking after their health, both physical and mental. I hope if you've listened today, you understand why this is so important to me, mental health, and why if I do anything for the rest of my life, this is it. Um, because helping other people, honestly, makes me feel less of a shitbag and like less that I've done, less guilty for um, being addicted to gambling. It makes me feel like it was all in what some weird way. It's all worth it because actually my experience and my lessons can help other people, and I think that's the most important thing for me. Um, yeah, as I say, we are now back properly. As of next week, we have guests again, proper guests, not pretendy guests like me. So there's lots of topics coming up. If there's anything that you want us to talk about, anything you want to hear, please let us know. As always, thank you for sharing. Please invite your friends as well. That would be really helpful for us. It would mean a lot. Um, and I'm so grateful for all the comments and things. I'll reply to everyone afterwards. It genuinely means so much to me. I love you all, and yeah, we will catch you next week. Thank you very much.
In a
In a bit.
bit.